Here's a common scenario. A company needs to do a bunch of interviews in multiple locations really fast and efficiently, and so I'm going to pack a kit that's going to make that possible. I'm using a Sony a7S2 as A cam and R2 as B cam with 3 lenses, using one of those bodies and lens to record this. I'm using a Sony Lav Mic system and a Sennheiser Lav and shotgun as backup with a gimbal, a tripod for A cam, and a monopod for B cam. Supplementary lighting is a 30-inch flapjack, a bunch of batteries, and I have loads of extra batteries for the cameras too, also D-tap. But I'm going to plug in lights when I can, especially in the first few scenarios, to make sure I can conserve that power and make it last for a whole day. Each scenario is going to have its challenges, like for example this first room with a really old HVAC system. You can hear on the scratch audio how incredibly loud that is.
Been tested among...
It wasn't on when we came in and were setting up, but all of a sudden that room kicked the thermostat on really quick, and as soon as we started recording, just wow. A lav mic with no preamp sounds like this.
Yeah, so one of the projects that...
The great thing is that this is such a common problem that most apps have a noise or hum removal built in. In this case, I'm using Final Cut voice isolation, and it works pretty well.
And the idea here is that we know that younger people who are in this community are at higher risk.
And another common scenario right here is working with mixed light sources. We have daylight coming in. It's a little bit cooler than 55K. It's more like 57, 58. And if you can see in the shot here, we have overhead CFLs that are really old school, looking like 41, 40K, but actually because of the aging and yellowing, they're more like 37, 38. So I'm not going to deal with them at all. I'm just going to turn them off. I'm not even going to have that interfere, and I'm going to supplement with a flapjack to try to balance out that daylight. Now, it's not enough power to do that, but it's better than nothing, and we can get a little bit of detail in the background because of that, whereas normally it would be blown out. Now, here's an audio issue that's not very common. Check this out. This fading in and out. Sounds like a filter that's designed to cut off background noise, but it's not.
Yeah. So right now we are still it's still part of a study. So people are filtered to different arms of the study.
Isn't that crazy? I've never seen that happen before. There's always something. So what I think is happening here, after a bunch of Googling, is that this is a new space and there is interference from a proximity of light sensors, and they're sending out an ultrasonic frequency that the mics are interpreting as hot audio, and they clip it. My initial response was to try to change the channels. It didn't work. I didn't want to take the time to scan a whole new list, and so I just completely flipped out from Sony to Sennheiser, and that worked.
Thinking about people living in.
And I'm going to end with a finished example of the first scenario. This is what it looks like: A cam, bottom, B cam on top, and on top of that, there's B-roll. So 3 layers.
A lot of the anxiety treatments that are in existence weren't developed for higher risk individuals, people, for instance, like with suicide risk, or who have other kinds of comorbid conditions. And so a big part of my research focus is about how to make the treatments that we know work very well, how to make them relatable for the average person coming into the clinic who might have thoughts about suicide, or who might have a substance use disorder, or other real world challenges that come along with having anxiety or trauma symptoms.
Gotcha. So this is